Hello, everyone. Welcome back. It has been a bit. Dan, Tortilla, Stall, Inkpot, Ophelia, reading analysis of Mother Horse Eyes video down for this. You know it's spec. That's just words. But thanks, I suppose. It here, Siren. What's up? Honey, hello. And Sam, Pause. What's up, everyone? Um, yeah. So as you can see from the title, it's not a sad '07. Um I got a new car, which is pretty exciting. Um but it did mean that I had to lose Milo, who was my 2013 Ford Explorer. I got him on May 8th of 2017. Hater Linny, hello. So I've had this car for a while. Um, the trip last week and being away was partially due to the car happening, mainly for a wedding. It was mainly for a wedding thing. But because of the car situation, I decided to drive 16 hours back to Pennsylvania rather than fly. So, led to some adventures and misadventures along the way. Um, and there was a real big oopsie right in the middle. Can't stay PT session in 8 hours. Want to say hi. Oh, thanks, Space Camp. Woof, that's a drive. It sure is. Uh, it's quite far, and the whole trip lasted uh less than a week. I was gone from Tuesday to Sunday. So not only was it a long drive, but then I had to drive back, as one might imagine. Um, all within just a couple days. So today, as a little send off to Milo, I'm going to tell you all some of my stories with this car. Um, some of the cool stuff that we got to do together. Show you some pictures of said adventures, and then talk about the wedding and stuff like that. But there are quite a few new people here. Um, one, two, three, four, five, eight. 30, 31. There's like 32 new followers here since the last time that I streamed. Probably coming in off of Bug Hunt. Um, which I like mix. Thank you for the follow. You make 33. Um, presumably a lot of these people have come in from Alveus and from the Bug Hunt, and maybe are maybe wouldn't be super happy with go play your stream on Alveus. No, let him go. I never want to take away from the Alveus thing. Uh I wouldn't say I don't think it matters. We can hang out here with our small group. Um but I think maybe some of those people that did come in for Bug Hunt and from Bug Hunt, I should say, would maybe be a little bit annoyed if this was just a yapping stream and there were no bugs. So we have Wild Child, thank you. Welcome back. So we have debuted a new screen for the stream. We have got uh we have got other cam, but also for other I need to put some away. Give me 2 seconds. Leak my personal Okay, I think we're good. We now have secondary screen, but with ants. So we have the Calypso's cam on screen, while we also look at the other stuff. Thank you for the hydrate, Marie. Yummy iced tea. Um, yeah, so there will be some ants on screen during the uh during the car show summary. So, without further ado, let's get into it here. Speed run growing a larva. Let's go. So this picture to start us off was taken on May 8th of 2017. Looking at ant colony. Oh, wild child, that's great. Um, Local ants are your best friends. It's way easier to get and find and sustain local ants than it is to get anything crazy. So wait for the flights. This is fresh and shiny Milo. Um, so my history of cars, I am now on my fourth vehicle that I've ever had. My first car was a maroon Pontiac Grand Prix that I had for like 6 months. I got it right after I got my license, which would have been, or right after I guess I got my. How did that work? Got my permit in. Okay, yeah, it was about a year. Um, I don't have any pictures of that car, Tortilla. And that car's name was Boo Radley. So I got that car in high school, from my dad's friend, who I paid $500 for it, and I got it on my birthday because that was when I was allowed to get my license. Um, no, I lied. You got your permit on your birthday. You got the license 6 months after that. So it would have been like March sometime when I got that car. And who boy was that thing a beater. It it was probably worth the $500. And um growing up, my mom's cars always had names. So I was like, "Oh, I have to name this thing." And yes, it was from the book Granola. Um that's what this story is of how we got there. My best friend, who I am still best friends with, we have been best friends since like 4th grade. We were hanging out outside of, or after work, trying to figure after school, and trying to figure out what we should call the car. And he was trying to riff off the idea that it was maroon, like it was maroon in color. And so he was like, it's kind of a beater. It's maroon in color. Like, why don't we name it like moron or something wordplay there about that? I said, no, I hate that actually. I was like, I think that's frankly a bad idea. Uh, and then he said, boo. And this just so happened to be the time in AP English when we were reading To Kill a Mockingbird. And so he said, boo. And I said, Boo Radley? And we kind of went, yeah, that's what we're going with here. So that's how I got my first car. That's how I got the name on my first car. Um, as I said, I had that car for about 6 months, going from March until my birthday the following year, or I guess that same year. So it would have been like it is 6:45 p.m. Why are people setting off fireworks? That's crazy, actually. And the holiday is not for another week and a half. Anyway, regardless, I had that car for about 6 months. I got the next car on my birthday, and that was a 2002 forest green Ford Explorer. I love that car so much, and to this day was probably my favorite car that I ever had. That was my grandfather's car. I've actually, inherited all three of my Ford Explorers now. Um the reason that that car was green was because when we went to go buy it new in 2002, when I was 7 years old, I made him get the green one because green was my favorite color. And so that was really like my first car that I really enjoyed. um, it was the color that I wanted. It was, an SUV, so I had a little bit more clearance because even then I was like starting to drive off and do a little, not like heavy off-roading, but like going out in the field a little bit. It got me through the last bit of high school. It got me through all of undergrad. And then uh it was the last summer before I moved for grad school. Um I was in Florida at the time, and I was getting ready to move to Kansas. And it's like just about 1,000 miles from where I was living in undergrad to home. So I always get the oil changed and everything looked at before I do this drive. I took it to the mechanic, and they're like, "Eeh, your power steering thing is cracked and the fluid is leaking and this and this and this and that. Uh, it's going to be about 4 grand to fix it." And this was 2017 at the time. So, I mean, the car was 15 plus years old at that point. Um, had a ton of miles on it because this was like also the road trip car when I was a kid. So lots of fond memories with this car growing up. Um, took it there. They said it was going to be like $4,000, and I said no thanks. Uh, what is the least amount that I can put into this that it won't explode? Doing this like next 1,000 miles, and they said about $400, and I said okay, great, we'll do that. Mind you, this is not the first time that we have had issues with this car. A separate time that I was driving home, our house is on a hill in Pennsylvania, and so I had just completed this 16-hour drive. I swung the most beautiful parallel parking job of my life. And the 2002 Explorer had the gear shifter behind the wheel, right? Vibes, what's up? Welcome in. I swing this absolutely textbook parallel parking. I go to shift it into park, and wouldn't you know, the gear shifter rips off in my hand. So I'm now sitting here parked, like facing up this hill, cars in front and behind me, and I'm sitting there holding my gear shifter because I don't know if it went into park before it ripped off or not. So I call momtomology and I'm like, "Hey, I'm here. I can't come inside yet." And she's like, "What do you mean?" And I explain the situation. She comes out. She's like laughing at me because I'm holding the gear shifter. And she's like, "Well, put your parking brake on, and hopefully that'll be fine." So we put the parking brake on. We got the neighbor that was behind me to move their car just in case I was like rolling back. Um, and ended up being fine. Uh, they called the tow truck. They came. They got it. They fixed the gear shifter or whatever. It was fine. But now with this like $4,000 tag on this car, uh, and we just put $400 in it to make it drivable to get up to Pennsylvania. Um, I drove basically straight through, got home super late, and then first thing in the morning, my grandfather's like, "You need to clean out the car." And I said, I know, I need to like unpack and everything. I got home at 2 a.m., so I didn't have time to do it then. But like, yeah, I'll get all my stuff out of the car." And he goes, "No, no, no. Uh, clean everything out of the car because we're going to give you this, the silver one that's been on screen this whole time, as like a graduation present now." And I said, "Oh, pretty good deal. Pretty good deal for me." Um, and so that's how I got Milo. The 2002 forest green Ford Explorer was named Greeley. And I think with the Explorers, it makes sense to like name the car after an Explorer. I thought Dora was too basic, and so much like the first one, I was watching something on the History Channel where they were talking about this Arctic Explorer. Explorer is the key term here. Named Adolphus Greely, who uh, did a lot for like Arctic biology. Described a ton of plants, described a ton of insects and stuff from up there, but nobody remembers any of that. Hey, Nikki. Nobody remembers any of that because his boat got stuck in the ice, and it took a while for the rescue people to get there. And so the only thing that anybody remembers about this Greeley expedition is that they resorted to cannibalism and like ended up eating some of their crew. So my forest green Ford Explorer was named after an Arctic explorer slash cannibal. uh, and that was all. I was like, "Oh, Greeley, that's fine." Greeley, it was a green Ford Explorer, so that's kind of why I made that connection. Now, this silver or gray, I actually don't know what people think of this one as. Uh, this is Milo. This is the car that we just traded in. Um, named, of course, after Milo Thatch from the Disney movie Atlantis. A famed and very well respected explorer in my mind. Um, so yeah, this was Milo. This was this was my car that I got right at the end of undergrad, and it lasted me all through grad school. Um, I posted on Instagram when I did the trade up here. And like from the day that I got it until the day that we got this new one, it was 3,321 days, over 100,000 miles, 2 graduate degrees, 3 cross-country moves, 20 states, and countless adventures, is what I said in the Instagram caption for this post. Um, and yeah, so I have had this car for the last like 9 years, and it's been great. It's been a great car. I made so many memories and so many adventures in this car, um, that it was pretty disappointing, honestly, to trade this one in, to switch it out. However, my grandparents are getting a little bit older. They don't do a ton of driving like they used to. And so they had this 2023 Explorer with like 5,000 miles on it because they use it to go to the grocery store and that's kind of it. And they were like, well, you've got your real job now, uh, done with grad school more or less. Um, you're driving around a lot more than we are. Like, why don't we swap out the cars so they can get the 2013 back, essentially, and I would then get the newer one. That sounds like a deal to me. And we've been talking about this for like over a year at this point. Because the original thought was that I would move to Florida and then have some time off before starting this job that I'm in now. So I would drive to Florida, get settled a little bit, do this drive to Pennsylvania, see my family for a little bit, and then come back down. That didn't work out. The job was like, hey, yeah, we would love to have you start. Can you be here in 5 weeks? And I was like, you want me to move across the country in like a month? And they said, yes. So, we weren't able to make it work out last summer with the plan, or when we started planning this. And then this past year, I had not yet gotten enough time off to go home for the holidays to like do this over Christmas. And the thing was also like needing the DMV to be open. And so if I went home right around Christmas, they would probably be closed and we probably wouldn't have been able to make this whole situation work out. So it's been in the back of my head. We've been talking about this for a while. And a couple months ago, when my friend sent me the wedding invitation, I was like, hey, I'm going to be in the area anyway. Like, this makes sense to try to do now. And so that was the plan. I went back home. I went to this wedding. We swapped out the cars, and now I'm back here. But we're gonna just roll it back to 2017 and kind of walk through and go through some of the uh many numerous adventures that I had in this car that we just traded back out. So, this is Milo in a random field somewhere in eastern Kansas. This was field work for my master's. So, I had 108 field sites all across the entirety of the state of Kansas. It went from like mountain time in the west, like on the border with Colorado, to uh, the eastern border where we could literally like accidentally drive into Missouri if we missed our turn, sort of thing. Um, and so I spent a ton of time on back roads in this thing, picking up pitfall traps that had all my beetles in it that I needed for my master's degree. And this was, I think, after we did training. We were teaching the new field techs how to go through everything. Um, and yeah, as you can see, there's a lot of dust going on here. Very, very sticky, very, very dusty. So this was when this car sort of started shifting from just a daily driver around town and things like that to okay, I'm starting to get into more adventuresome activities. None of these roads were particularly bad. There was never, I mean, I never got stuck. Some other people did, but this wasn't like too crazy in the grand scheme of things. especially based on like what was yet to come. And unfortunately, I think this is about the last picture that I have of this car in Kansas, at least while I was living there. So I have this shot. I lived in Kansas for 2 years. And then the next picture that I was able to find that I wanted to show uh, was this one, which was when I was moving to Arizona. This was my first time actually being in the state besides from my visit to the university. Uh, Really pretty out west. If none of you have been, definitely check that out. I still miss the topography and the landscape of Arizona like a lot. Um, Certainly curious. I got a new car, and so we are recapping my old car, and you'll see the new one coming up here in a bit. But there are some ants on screen if you are just here for the bug. W photo. Thanks. Spider tattoo. Yeah. So that one, that's on this wrist. Um, it's wolf spider eyes. Um, but yeah, this was driving to Arizona for the first time, and this was sort of like my next big move, right? Like I was starting my PhD program. You can see this is the U-Haul trailer in the back, so I had all of my stuff with me. Um, and I just thought it was really neat. The scenery, I thought it was fun, looked really cool, looked really pretty. So was excited to have this. Now, this next photo is less fun. And I did say that the Dusty picture was the last photo that I had of Milo in Kansas while I lived there. This was during COVID, so I think it would have been like November of 2020. Um, One of my really good friends from my master's program was defending, and I decided that I was going to drive up and surprise him by actually being at his defense. It was a great time, had a great trip. Um, my master's advisor, wonderful woman, as we know, we just went to her retirement party a couple weeks ago. She was like, "Oh, you can stay with me. That would be fine." So I was staying with them, but they had some sort of family emergency where they had to go out of town. So they were like, just lock up, you know where the spare key is, blah blah blah, all that stuff. Um, just lock up in the morning and you can stay here tonight even though we're not going to be there. I said, "Great. That's super nice of you. I really appreciate it." Well, the next morning I go out to leave and that is all of my back window in their driveway in arguably one of the nicest neighborhoods in Wichita, Kansas. Someone busted my back window out. They broke this one out. This was my trash bag fix of the situation. Um there were so many annoying things about this situation. One, my car got broken into. Two, I couldn't figure out what they took because there is camping equipment in here at this point. There's a sleeping bag and a sleeping mat, which we will come back to. There is a story about that later on. There's a GPS unit in here. There's like, there's some decently expensive stuff. That is actually just the reflection, I think. Um, it's not, it didn't get keyed. They did vandalize it some more though. The big problem with this, the window was broken out and everything, which was obviously a hassle. I called the police. They were like, "Well, who knows." Um, I couldn't figure out what was stolen. They definitely like took the money out of the center console, which, fine, whatever, shit happens. The real problem that I had in the moment with this situation was that I had agreed to take a specimen loan that my advisor had taken from ASU like in the early 2000s. So I had like 5 boxes of pinned beetles in my back seat. And one of them was open. And I just put yourself in the mind of a thief. You break into a car, and there's just a box of bugs. What do you what do you do with that? What's your situation there? Like, and so I was really worried that like these specimens were placed in my care and they were now all of a sudden going to be like completely messed up. So as I'm like talking to the cops and everything, I'm like, ooh, guess I gotta check these out. And I like very timidly, I'm like, open the box, and the specimens looked fine. UW, uh, and then I checked all the boxes on the floor. In the entire situation, we lost one beetle head. And in the grand scheme of things, uh, fine. We made it out scot free. We made it out scot free. Cars broken into on my 21st birthday. They took nothing. Yeah, I was talking at the time, purchasing a replacement for me, so that was pretty nice, girl. Major dubs. Um, so I couldn't figure out what they took. Right, they took cash, but I didn't see anything else like gravely missing. So I get a trash bag. I duct tape it to my window. Um, I tape it on the inside, tape it up here. But then, bro, the cops wouldn't even show up. Fill an online form and send it to the. Yeah, I mean, I did do a police report on it. I just don't think anything happened with it. Um, so the Beatles are fine. The car is taped up. I am going to put my suitcase. I have my little rolly bag with me into my trunk so I can just start driving back. And this is when I notice that in the ever present layer of dust that is on my car, these thieves had the audacity to write Bugman in the dust on the back of my car. It just said Bugman. And that's insane to me. That is like they weren't worried about getting caught. They weren't like, oh shit, there was nothing in here. Like, we got to get out of here. They broke in. They saw my box of beetles. They were probably like, what the fuck is this? And then they left after writing Bugman in the dust. At the time, I was fuming. I was like so mad that they were like taunting me like this. This is maybe one of the best stories that I have now. It's so fucking funny that they would do that after they broke into my car and just found like boxes of beetles and nothing of value. Like they didn't take anything of value. Fast forward a couple of months later, I was on a impromptu camping trip and realized that they did in fact steal a backpack. I had a backpack in there that had like uh change of clothes, fire starting stuff, sort of like not like a bug out bag because I'm not one of those guys. Um, but just like general preparedness stuff to keep in the car. So they did in fact get something out of the car. I just did not realize it at the time. Um, so here I am driving this car back from Kansas to Arizona in November. What you might not know, and what you might not think of because it's Arizona, is that northern Arizona and northern New Mexico are fucking cold. So when I moved, right, so I went from Florida to Kansas and then Kansas to Arizona. Each one of those moves was about 16 hours. So I had this like 16-hour drive from Kansas to Arizona with this damn garbage bag going the entire way. And then we get to northern New Mexico where uh it's snowing. It's snowing and I only have a trash bag on my back right window. It was so damn cold finishing out that drive. It was so bad and like I was tired. I didn't sleep super well the night before, so I was like, "Oh, I'll stop and I'll do this or whatever." But uh as we'll get to later, I like sleeping in the back of the car. I have a sleeping mat that like fits perfectly if you lay the seat down, and I can just like sleep in my trunk. It's great. Couldn't do that because I didn't have a window, so it was cold. So I had to like push through. Um, Definitely did some probably ill-advised driving with how tired I was. But I did eventually make it back. We got the window replaced. Arizona, you basically always have 100% glass coverage with your Arizona um, auto insurance because the heat from just being in Arizona, uh the heat from Arizona will often mess with windows. So a lot of the time windows are covered. So even though this wasn't heat related, it was glass related. So the window got fixed totally fine, not a big deal. Fave beetles is the tortoise beetle along with stag rhino and Hercules beetle. Little gems are in my car. Thanks, creature collector. Welcome in. And it'll hit the windshield. Yeah, stall. That makes sense. So I got it fixed. Not a problem. Not really a big deal. But broke into my damn car, rode in the dust, and stole a backpack. Piss me off. This is another time where we had maybe less than ideal luck. Um, this is Milo on the side of the road in Arizona. And yeah, that bitch is flat. This was particularly annoying. What are the ants? Oh, bunnies like ants. That's interesting. Robbery for the sake of being annoying. Yeah, wild child for sure. Um, I was driving out to go collecting this night. And it was about 2 hours away. I got to the little GPS point that I had put of like, this is the turnout that I'm going to go down, whatever, check it out. Basically, as soon as I hit the dirt road, my back left tire just It wasn't like a low tire pressure warning. It just went so it was flat almost almost instantly, which not fun. Not fun. So this was me changing this tire. Uh, quite annoyingly, even though this is like a big SUV, there is not room for a full spare. So I have a donut, little baby spare tire there that you're not supposed to drive more than like 70 miles on it, and you're not supposed to go like above 50 miles an hour. Well, the entire freeway from where this happened to get back home was like 110 miles, and the speed limit was 75. So I was driving home. I was getting honked at the whole time. Like it was, it was so frustrating. Um, and I didn't get any beetles. I didn't get any beetles because I was like, well, I can't like stay out here on this donut if I'm going to drive home. I want to do it now when it's like kind of light out. So I basically drove like 2 hours to get a flat tire and then immediately drive home. Is the sound okay? Is it too loud? How are audio levels, if I may ask? They're good. Okay. It's peaking a little bit more than it's Sugoi. Hello. Okay. Thanks everyone. It's dancing a little bit more than normal. And I actually took the microphone back to Pennsylvania with me because I had to do chats last week in Pennsylvania. So I wasn't sure if any of my things got switched around a little bit. Yeah, so I didn't even get to go collecting. Oh, it's better now, actually sleeping. Okay, interesting. Uh, I drove out to find beetles. No beetles. Got a flat tire, but at least the scenery was nice. Tough ad bug today. Case, did you put it in bug cord? I know it's not your new hobby. I know it's not your new hobby, but we can appreciate it. Oh, you did put it in bug cord. Can we look at it? Is that allowed? See what Case got. Don't know. Let's see what's. Oh, sick. I did see this. I didn't realize this was you that posted this earlier. This is Chlorion. It's a cockroach wasp. Yeah, there it is. Nice job, Tortilla. Um, these wasps will sting cockroaches and like lead them around by the antenna to the uh drag the roach back to their burrow, where they then lay the egg in the cockroach, and then the babies the roach. So it's very similar to like the biology of a tarantula hawk, where they paralyze and sting and lay the egg. Google said blue mud dauber. Is that the same or different? It's different. Um, they're pretty closely related. But these ones will burrow, not so much make the mud nests. The ones that you were looking at were probably Getting the Libya. So they're not super distantly related. I mean, they are the same family. Um, but you can really see how this one, the cockroach wasp, has this like really distinct neck. Like the head is pretty far away from the body, whereas this one it's a lot shorter. And in your pictures, you got a long ass neck. See, Case, isn't that fun? Isn't that so fun to get into bug ID? Dude, I'm telling you, every time you go outside, you have the ability to find something cool like that. W bugs. um, I think that was about it for this story. Uh, just drove out, got a flat tire, had to drive home. This one, is in like southern Arizona. I think this is like probably around 2 block, somewhere like that. Again, just a nice view. Just a nice view. Arizona with the clouds, and you got the saguaro cacti over here. That's what these ones are. Um, it had just rained not too long ago, so you have the rain clouds and the mountains and everything. So I just thought this one was nice. And this like really this sort of driving is what I think about most when I'm now like remembering this car. Uh I lived in Arizona for like 5 years, and at that point I was really invested in like getting out in the field and exploring and things like that. So, to me, a lot of my best memories with a lot of friends that I'm super close with, a lot of professional connections and things like that were out doing drives around the state that sort of look like this. Um so this sort of like exemplified to me mostly of like what I remember from having this car. So that's why I put this one in here. Nothing particularly memorable about this story, but just just a nice photo with Milo. This one pretty fun. This is still Arizona, but doesn't look like what most people think of when they think about Arizona. This is northeast of Phoenix. And we were on our way into the Miles Ranch trailhead with our summer collections interns. We ran a uh like a DEI program through ASU where we offered a paid internship with the collection for 6 weeks. And every week they'd have a week with bugs, they'd have a week with plants, they'd have a week with mammals, whatever. Um and being able to offer this opportunity to underrepresented communities in the like natural history museum space, right? And part of this, and part of like still my favorite thing about being able to work in a museum and sort of work in this field is that we still get to go on field trips. So we would take them out twice and camp. We had camping supplies that were specifically for this program. So we had tents and chairs and sleeping bags and all that sort of stuff that a lot of these students had never been camping before, even though they lived in Arizona like their entire life. And so this was going up into some different habitat. We tended to do a low desert field trip where it's like that's your classic. You're seeing a ton of lizards. You've got the cacti. It's mostly sand, like actual, like this is what Arizona is. But then we also always tried to go to a further north or like a further up in elevation field site to kind of show off, like, hey, Arizona's not all just desert. So this was from our had to have been 2022 field trip with this class. This was our first group of interns that we were taking up, and this photo does not do it that much justice. This drop here is absurdly steep. This continues up here, kind of curves around, and then you've got this, and it goes around the backside of this mountain part two. Um, we had the interns, and some of them were just like white knuckling, grabbing the handles in the car because they had never been up on these mountain roads before, and this wasn't particularly bad. I've been on many a worse road, but for them it was like one of their first times getting out in the field like this, and again, just some nice scenery. So another excellent adventure with my former vehicle. What's next? Ah, okay. Du Bois. Um, this is another big part of it, and I think part of what made this car so special was getting out in the field with so many different people. Um, this was a big meeting of entomologists in the Huachuca Mountains in southern Arizona. Uh, we had about 20 people show up this night. These three guys that are sitting here and this tall guy on the right hand side are from Utah. They had driven down to come collecting, and they organized with a couple of other people who were in town at the same time, like, hey, we should all get together and do something. And when entomologists get together, all we want to do is look for bugs, right? So we got together and we were like, oh, yeah, we'll just, we'll run lights tonight and see what happens. So this is Milo back here. Not super dirty or anything, but there's me. And then Ethan, who is a recurring character on this stream. My friend that lives in Orlando now, so my former student that's doing his PhD now. This is Ethan. Um, we drove down. We met up with all these people. We had the lights going. But it is the middle of monsoon season in Arizona, and so what that means is, the state averages like 6 inches of precipitation per year. 4.5 inches of those come between the months of like July and September. And if you've never experienced like true monsoon rain, you're like, oh yeah, it's like it's a heavy thunderstorm. No, it's so much different than that. It's like torrential rain in a way that is quite hard to describe, actually. Um, and so we were up here. We had all these lights going, and Ethan rode down with me. So us two here were in my car together. And I was like, "Hey, if it starts raining, like we'll pull everything down, toss it in the car, and wait, and we can put it back up once it clears up." We did not really have the time to do that. It started drizzling, and we're like, "Okay, we'll start packing up, start going slow, just putting everything in the car." And then it's just like it's raining. It's raining a lot. It's raining very heavily. And you're walking through it and it just feels like a shower. It just feels like such concentrated rain, so dense, just on you, soaking you. Was it raining men? Uh, hallelujah. It was not. It was worse. Um, so as we're kind of like slowly packing up camp and packing up our lights and everything, all of a sudden, from a little bit higher up the mountain, we just see a flow. We see a flow of water starting to come down uh the dirt road, like the path out, and I was like, "Oh shit, we gotta go." This is no longer like, "Oh, it's raining, we'll deal with it. We'll work our way out of here later," sort of thing. This is, we are getting flash flooded off of this mountain right now. So, this bin here had been open. Um, it was full of water by the time even we got back to the car. So we just like dumped it out, threw everything in the back, and we now have this caravan of like 10 or 12 cars going down this rocky, uh, covered with water mountain road to get us out because we have to go down into the valley and then we come up the other side. So everything is flowing downhill, right? So all of this flood water is not only coming off of the mountain behind us, like we're driving through it trying to go down, it's all concentrating right at the bottom where we have to cross like a wash. For those of you who have never been to Arizona, a wash is what you would just call a dry creek bed anywhere else. It's a low point that would typically have water flowing through it if you were anywhere else in the US. In Arizona, most of them, it's a low point. They kind of hold moisture a little bit better, but they're dry for the most part, except during monsoon season. And they can be really, really dangerous. With these flash floods, all the loose debris and rocks and like this water that the ground is not equipped to like deal with, it just flows. And so people get in trouble every year like being in a wash when it rains. And it's like flash flooding is like a real problem in Arizona. Um so thankfully our entire caravan, we made it out. We made it down and up again, so we cleared the rain. But it was quite scary. It never got to a point where we were like seriously worried about it. When we got to the bottom, there was a couple of inches of water that we were going through, but it was not like torrent yet. So we all felt comfortable driving across it. Um, but yeah, that's one of those things that like you don't think about very often. And like Wildchild said, yeah, it's like not a great place to be during a flash flood. In a car is like pretty down there as places you would want to be. Um, but yes, all of us did have SUVs. You probably couldn't get to where we were on like a normal car. So yeah, everybody has SUVs in the bug world. But we all made it out, which was great. But that was this trip. Um cut it short with our visit with our guys, our friends from Utah and whatever, but we made it out. This is Texas. Um Prior to visiting Alveus last year, on my move from Arizona to Florida, the only experience that I had with Texas was driving through like an itty bitty little corner of it, going from Arizona to Kansas or Kansas to Arizona. This would have been September of 2022 or 2023, maybe. I was going up for a wedding. I was driving up to visit some friends in Kansas. I was going there for their wedding. But I know this had to have been after 2021 because I was birding at this point. I started birding in October of 2021, uh October 8th, I believe, if you want to get technical about it. Um but this was a screeching halt, pull over on the side of the road thing because there's a bird over here on this fence. It was a scissortail flycatcher. Case, if you're still here, this is the kind of shit you're missing out on. Um, really, really gorgeous bird with these super long tail feathers. They're called scissor tails because they like. Um, and I had never seen this species before. It was it was in my like my peripheral of like I know this thing is like here on the route, but it was like towards the end of the season for them. I wasn't entirely sure if I was going to see one or not. And it's like it's a pretty white bird, right? Like you can see this on this barbed wire fence, and that's exactly what it was. Oops, that's not what it was exactly like that over here on this fence line. So I stopped, I pulled over, I went over, got a picture of the bird. It was like, oh my god, I got scissor tail flycatcher, oh my god. Um and for the longest time, it was my only bird that I had seen in Texas. And I thought that was so funny because Texas is such a big state. There's so damn many birds in Texas that are like found nowhere else in the US. And the only dot that I had on the map was just like this little itty bitty corner of like the Texas panhandle. Uh with one bird in it. And as you could see, it was getting dark. So I like it was going to rain as well, but it was getting dark, it was going to rain. I just barely kind of saw this bird right before it got too dark and then I wasn't going to be able to. Um so wonderful, wonderful pull off here. Just grabbing that bird real quick, but this was the commemorative photo of that because I don't think I actually did get. Let's see here. I don't know if I actually got a picture of that scissortail flycatcher. Oh, I did. I did get a picture of that bird. This was it. This was my first one. So quite happy with that, to be honest. Um, good good pickup, and I think this is a decent picture. It's, the tail's blurry. It's certainly not technically the best. I don't care. My whole thing with documenting and taking pictures of birds is I would like proof that I actually saw the thing. Yes, wild child, exactly. Because in entomology, it's like so much is based on you have the specimen and you can always double check that. With birding, it's like, oh yeah, I could tell you that I saw that today, and there's no backing really that like actually proves that. So I got this. I was very, very excited about it. Um so yeah, that was why this one got taken, and that's why I was pulled over here for the scissortail flycatcher. I have Picture it didn't happen. Yeah, honestly, granola, real. Um, you guys should see some of my like really. Why would I say you guys should see? Just pull them up. Uh, this was my first ever picture of a least bittern. This is the bird right here. This is the blur that I was very excited about. I have since gotten far better photos of that species. Um, Actually, in the same pond, in the same like corner of the pond. This is what the bird actually looks like. This is the first photo that I had of it. Pickle! Thank you. Thank you for the toes, sir. So yeah, this was the first least bittern. This is the same, like I said, it's the same exact reed patch, um, with a much better photo of this bird. I think one of my ants escaped. Why do you think that, Vines? Oh, was one walking like up top? Remember really? Yeah, so vibes. They have the red film that we're looking through is not actually the top of their entire container. So they can walk on top of it, which might have looked why it looked like that. I do have another one that's pretty fun. Uh, did I not? Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. So here's another case of that. Um, this was my lifer Rufus backed Robin. Uh, if you're having trouble seeing the bird, correct. Correct. The Rufus backed robin is a Central and South American species that like just barely shows up in Arizona sometimes. Um, and it is like it's an event when it does happen. It's an event when they show up. And this one happened to be at the same park as the least bittern photos, which was only like 20 minutes from my house. And so someone posted in the Discord, they're like, hey, I just saw Rufus back Robin, can't relocate it, blah, 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 but this is where I saw it. So I went back and I sat on this bench that they had pointed out to me, and I just waited. I waited for a good couple hours, and there were other birds that were like popping up and, making me think that I was going to see it or whatever. It showed up. I saw it. I was like, oh, that's the bird. That's great. It counts. But let me get a picture of it because, again, I like having proof that I saw this thing. My camera is not a manual focus, it only has autofocus. And because this bird was down here deep in this thorn bush, it decided to autofocus on all of these spikes here surrounding it. And after I took this picture, the bird was not seen again. I was the last person to see this bird. in town that time that it showed up. And this is actually my only Rufus Back Robin picture from the US. This is what the Rufus Back Robin actually looks like. And this is a much better photo from when I saw the species in Mexico. So you can see that it's like got the gray head, the gray wings, and sort of this light underpart, but it's all rusty here on the back and the breast. And if you come back to this one, if you really squint at this, you can see there's like a head up here, and then like all of this rufusness here, and kind of that wing on the underside sort of thing. This is not a good photo. This is certainly not a great photo. But when you know what you're like sort of looking for, it's identifiable. It counts. And that was enough for me. So this is probably my worst photo that I actually have on eBird that is actually like identified as a thing. This is a much better photo. Rocksters. Thank you, thank you. 11 months is crazy. Wait, that means my year is coming. Oh no. We're gonna have to do something about that. Bird chose to hide there in the camp. Yeah. Yeah, real cool, Nikki. How do they not? Granola? No idea. I have no idea. Rockstars has been sub for 11 months. That's I have to check. I'll have to see like when the first stream was. But this photo here was the start of the arc of using Milo to go birding. And this is on the more like extreme end of things. I think it was only like one or two Rockstars. I had subs pretty early. Um, this is me. This is me scoping for a bird at a sewage pond in Gila Bend, Arizona. So what you're not seeing like on this side of the camera is a like a hill of dirt with some ponds back behind it. And I'm looking for a bird that is um that's about 9 inches long. So imagine I don't have a ruler. Yeah, I do. So imagine looking for something that's maybe like this long in a pond on the other side of a hill of dirt. It was not exactly easy to get. So this is a tripod that is fully extended. The neck is fully extended, and I am standing on the edge of Milo here, with my foot here on the door, trying to get a better look at this damn bird. And uh, I did eventually see it, which, you know, big dubs. We actually saw the bird. But all of that was to get this view. This is the bird I was looking at. This is a least grebe. So all of those acrobatics were for this bird. You got 811 seems to be the first. Very nice bird. You guys are super nice about it. But this is what the bird actually looks like. Double confirmed 811. How are you at 11 months then? If it's only June. July. Oh, okay. Okay, I see. Um yeah, that's the same bird. But yeah, so this was the Milo uh epic birding pose. All by the shape. Yeah, and the big yellow eye and everything. So it worked out a lot. Um, but Milo definitely saw his fair share of bugs and birds and all kinds of other good stuff. Um, and also just cool places. I really like this genre of photo of like outside the car window, sort of like POV from the car. This is in White Sands. So White Sands National Park in New Mexico. This was in 2024, I want to say. Um, this trip was really fun, and I think I've shown bits from this trip before. Uh, there was a lepidopterist, so someone who works on butterflies and moths, that lived in Alamogordo, New Mexico, who unfortunately passed away. And when you die, before your collection is able to be obtained by a museum, it has to go through like a third party appraisal process, which insect specimens count they're functionally priceless in terms of like the information that's there. But for the tax man, of course, you have to put like an actual dollar value assigned to these things. And so someone has to go through and look through the entire collection and be like, oh, this many are identified to species, these ones are pinned, these ones are labeled, like, and all of that adds value to the actual like physical specimen. So if you just say like a loose bug, no pin is like $1. This is not how the conversion works, but like that's $1. You get a pin, it's now like $1.50. With labels, it's $2. And then if it's identified to species with the genitalia extracted and a DNA barcode, you're looking at like $8 to $10. And then you have a massive collection of like, 50 some thousand beetles or whatever it is. Uh it's a massive tax write-off. It's a massive tax donation to like donate this stuff to a museum. And so there was this lepidopterist that had passed away, and somebody that I am very good friends with does entomological consulting. So he is the person that does the appraisal before it goes to a museum. And his plan was to go to New Mexico and do this himself. But he just started a new job and like wasn't able to get away to go do this. And so he calls me and he's like, "Hey, would you potentially be willing to go to New Mexico?" I was still living in Arizona at the time. Would you be willing to go to New Mexico and like count this guy's collection for me and like do this appraisal? And I'll pay you, whatever she was paying me to do this. And I said, "Yep, totally. Like, let's go do it." Uh, so I was there for 3 days, and I hand counted 48,726. I still remember. I still remember exactly how many it was. 48,726 moths in 3 days. And basically did this appraisal of like, okay, these ones are all identified to genus. These ones are identified to species. These ones are, only to family level or whatever. So I did this whole process, right? And this is in Alamogordo, New Mexico, which has been talked about on the stream before because it is the home of the world's largest pistachio. There's a pistachio farm there that I had a little snow globe from, and some pins and things like that. Um, Went to the giant pistachio, and then on the way home, between Alamogordo and going back to Phoenix, is White Sands National Park. So I went to the national park, and another really cool thing about this trip was that White Sands had a moth pin in the gift shop. And I was like, oh, cool, a bug thing. Like, let's look into this. And I flipped it over and I was reading the back, and it was like, oh, local Lepidopterus, blah, 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 describes moth species only known from White Sands National Park. And I looked at it and I went, son of a bitch. I saw the original specimen of this species that this pin is based off of yesterday, like in this dude's house. Um, so it was really fun. It was a really good time. White Sands is a very very alien place. Being like so inland and the sand being so different from the surrounding desert, really really incredibly cool place. Definitely think probably like an underrated national park. But was able to drive through with Milo and do this and see this, which was super super neat. And then this is at the top of Mountain Lemon, which is north of Tucson, Arizona. Um, I think this was a 4th of July trip because there was an entomology gathering on Mount Lemon every year on the 4th of July. And I went up the day before. Of course, now because I'm doing birds, I had to go look for birds the day before and then spend the whole next day doing bug stuff. But Mount Lemon gets up really high. Like at the bottom, you're in low desert where there's saguaro cactus and sand and just like traditional desert. But as you go up, you get high enough to get into like aspen, and just like driving up the mountain, you get this incredible community change in the plants, in the bugs, in the birds, and like everything. You get to see all of this stuff kind of change as you go up. Um, and this is one of the mid-level parking areas. The trail kind of continues around over to like the left of this picture. And goes up way higher, but uh this is just a cool shot that I liked. I think this is a 0.5, which is sort of why Milo looks you know, a bit off. Kill people too, yeah, I suppose. I think. Yeah. So cool picture. Last picture that I actually have of this car in this part of the presentation. Um, I do fish eyed. Um, I will say that not only did Milo help me get to places to see really cool stuff, Milo is actually some of the reason why I actually have documentation of seeing some of this cool stuff. I hope this next video does not have sound for you guys. Um, but this was captured on Milo's dash cam. So this little thing running across the road here is a ringtail cat. It's not a raccoon granola. It's a raccoon relative. Um, let's pull up the. It's called a cat. It's not a cat. It is closer to a raccoon. But it is the state mammal of Arizona, and it is in Procyon, so it is a raccoon relative, but it's not your traditional raccoon. It's obviously a lot more slender and things like that. Doesn't have quite the grabby hands that the raccoon does. But this is the state mammal of Arizona, and they're adorable. They're ridiculously cute. And for as much time as I spent out in the field, as many adventures as Milo took me on, it took me like 4 years before living in Arizona before I saw one of these things. And I was driving. I didn't have any way to like document that I had this. And then I went, Milo, you crazy son of a bitch. I have my dash cam that got the proof that I actually saw a ringtail like running across the road. It was awesome. This is my friend's head coming into view because she was like leaning forward to take a picture of it. Um, but I thought this was really cool. There's an ad in about a minute for those of you that aren't subbed. Check for your primes. Um, but yeah, little ringtail just going across the road here. Uh, Adorable thing. And again, the only reason that I have proof that I saw this thing, we're all about proof here on this stream, is because of Milo's dash cam, which I think is pretty funny. But yeah, look at them. They're super cute, and they're in Texas as well. Here's your range map. They get up a lot higher than most people think of, but it is Arizona's state mammal. Adorable. Little ringtails. Oh my god. You kidding me? Insane. Looks like a mouse throwing hand. I need to know what you mean. Oh my god, it does. It does. Here's the ear, and here's the nose, and there's the mouse leg. That's really funny. That's a very funny stall that you picked up on that. That's awesome. But yeah, so courtesy of ringtail, courtesy of Milo's dash cam. And then this last bit here. What's my order? What do I have coming up? Ah, yes. Okay. Let's watch the cat and let's watch the ringtail one more time. Look at him. He's so cute. On the lawn. Um, this next video is one of the last that I took in Arizona. I had like I had this, like I said earlier, I had just over 4 weeks to accept this job and move from Arizona to Florida. And as you can imagine, that really kind of constricts your time limits on things. And so there were a couple days that I scheduled out where I was like, I'm going to go do all of my favorite Arizona things. Uh, and a lot of that includes just being in the desert. Um, and so to really send that off, get the experience and everything. Uh, back down dirt road, picking up dust. Gorgeous scenery. You get the mountains and the. This is actually a sunrise happening in the back here. Was just a fun Arizona thing for me. Pick up the dust again, one last time. And so, uh, stop this. Um, we've now we've now made it to the plot twist in the story. This would have been last year, 2 weeks ago, when I took this video. In between there, uh, I moved to Florida. I had that entire cross country move happen. I stopped at Alveus, got to hang out with that, which was super cool. And last week would have been my was my 1 year anniversary of my new job, which is very exciting. I still love it. It's great. Uh, and I had this wedding coming up. It was great. We were still planning on doing this car swap. Well, back in April, when I was in Arizona for my defense, I get a text message at 9 p.m. Arizona time, which would have been either like 11 or 12 in Pennsylvania, from my grandparents. Well, that's no good. Uh, this was this was the car that I was going to get. um, Nobody was injured. I will say that they live on a main street and they were parked. This is like parked out in front of the house, and somebody driving down the main road just like obliterated this damn car. They were not in it. No. They were in bed when this happened. Um yes, thankfully. It could have been way worse. Uh but, you know, the timing not great. Right? We have plans in like a month and a half to swap these cars. Both of them were paid off and everything like that, so there was going to be no hassle with like a leasing office or anything like that. It was just going to be like a straight across straight trade. Um if you can see here, uh that tire is in half. This whole panel is fucked. This whole panel is fucked. Um this this was parked normally, but now you can see that this front tire is like almost up on the curb. So it got obliterated. It got smashed like crazy style. Was the driver drunk? Great question. The cops said no. You know, where you want to take of that, who knows? But the cops did say that he wasn't. So, you know, eh, uh, the blue car was parked in front of them. Yeah, that's the neighbor's car. Do you guys want to take a guess as to what kind of car hit them? You guys have any suggestions as to what you think did all of this? Tesla, Beamer, my own. No, wasn't mine. Granola nailed it. It was a fucking Mini Cooper. It was a Mini Cooper, which is adds insult to injury, honestly, of like what this could have been hit by. Yeah, so Mini Cooper took this shit out, and I'm in Arizona. I call my grandparents and I'm like, "Hey, you guys are good, right?" like like this was parked and they said, "Yeah, we're totally fine." Um the other guy's car apparently way worse. They did not take a picture of it, but I was like, I would have liked to see what the other car looked like. Um as you can imagine, giant hassle. Giant hassle to have to deal with this. Uh so it didn't drive away. It was like slightly further down the block. Um I don't know, like it bounced here and like somehow avoided the blue car because that is the neighbor's car. They were parked. Um yeah, I don't know how they didn't get hit either, but they didn't. Um yeah, just crazy. Just crazy how this happened. Um and so since like April, we have been trying to figure out what this means, right? This car, 2023, 4,000 miles on it. Only 4,000 miles. And I think probably half of that was me driving this car because we took it on a family vacation um, down to North Carolina back in 2023, like right after they got it. So uh, a good chunk of those miles were miles that I actually drove onto this. Blue cars never hit instead of your car. Am I the only grandchild? I sure am, granola. Sure am. Um, the Mini Cooper fucking took this car out. They totaled it. With how extensive this back end was, it apparently ripped kind of like the bottom axle off of this and ruined a bunch of stuff under here. So the car got totaled. Big insurance payout for it, but I was in fact now no longer getting this car. I still kind of wanted the new car though, because Milo, as much as I loved Milo, um, had some quirks. Uh, Milo's quirks included the remote not working, so I had to open him with the key every time. Uh, and it somehow didn't register that I opened it with the key every time, so if I wouldn't start him within 30 seconds of opening the door, the alarm would go off. The sunroof didn't work because the sensors got blocked, or the drains got blocked. It flooded into the motor, fried the motor, and cost like $1,200 for them to just close the sunroof. It would have been another like 1,200 to fix the motors. So we had a sunroof, didn't work. Uh, Sometimes the back right door would just go and like would just like it wouldn't lock properly. And so it was always sort of a guess whether or not my back door was open every time. Um lots of things. Uh So I was like, "Hey, are we still planning to do this?" And they're like, "Yeah, well, we have to figure out what car essentially you're going to be getting." And so we did some shopping. We looked around. They were, on the ground. I was sending them links to places. And we found a different 2023 Ford Explorer. Same trim package, same everything, just now with 7,000 miles instead of 4,000. Forest green. Oh, I wish granola. I love that first car. Um, a little bit more experience, but for 2023, that's still crazy because the other 2023s that were like available all had like 30 plus thousand miles on it. Um, so really incredible to find basically the same car, like as close to identical as possible, that they were able to basically entirely cover with the insurance payout from this whole scenario happening. Uh so the plan was still on to do the car swap, right? I had to go out for the wedding anyway. It was too late to book flights and everything. It would have been too expensive. So I was like, you know what? We're still gonna drive up there, which was kind of nice. Um, I got one last like really good road trip with this car that I love so much. And that got me through so much. It was a very valiant send off, I think, for Milo. Um, so just a few pictures of that now. First, as I was leaving Florida, this is not very far out of town at all, but there was this cattle egret that was like waiting to cross the road. He's just like, he was chilling there. I stopped and he would walk out, and then the other lane would go, and he would just like wait, and he kind of kept going back and forth. Eventually, he flew across, which makes sense. He's a bird, he can fly. Uh, but this was really funny. um, and this would have been last Tuesday. So, I left after work on the 16th to start this drive, and I had the hard time limit of getting to Pennsylvania by 10 p.m. on Wednesday because I had to do chat chats. I had to do chat chats, so I had a hard out of like I needed to be there by that time, which meant that I had 20 29 hours to do 16 hours of driving, give or take, based on like when I left. So I had taken everything that I needed with me to work. I had all my stuff with me. I had all the paperwork and all that good stuff with me in the car. And I was like, I'm just leaving from work on Tuesday. So I left and I was like planning out where I was going to stop. And uh of course, the logical stopping point at any portion of any road trip is a Bucky's. Uh, and there are two Bucky's Eye, uh, on the route going up 95, which is what my plan was. There's one in Georgia that I got to at like 7 p.m., probably after like 2.5 hours, 3 hours of driving. And that's not what this one is. This is the second Bucky's. Um, Bucky stresses you out. That rat sheets. What are Bucky's? Vibes? Where are you from? Where are you from to ask such a question? Not in a judgmental way. But yeah, EU. Okay, I thought so. Um Bucky's is the most personified American thing that can exist. It's a gas station, but it's like the gas station the size of a small city. You can see here. So there's like 100 gas pumps at these things, and then this entire store in here is just full of the like most kitschy merch that you could think of. Um, they have plushies and cups and all these snacks and things like that. But then they also have this section which has like brisket and pulled pork and sausage and like hot food burritos, things like that. It is uh it's an experience to say the least. They have like over 100 different flavors of beef jerky, uh Chuck E. Cheese and Wawa. Mm, to North Carolina soon. There's one new in town. You stop. No, not to the North Carolina one. Why, child? Did I stop it south of the border? Yes. Not this trip, but I have stopped there before. So much bigger than you realized. Yeah, look at this. It's like this is like a city. This whole central piece here is the store. You have all the gas stations and all the parking around the outside. So this is like the most American thing that happens. Uh, so this existed, but Bucky's. This is also sort of like what it looks like a lot of the time with how many people there are. It's kind of nuts. Um, I never had this. It's behind the ants. I've never had this Bucky's experience until uh until this trip. So, I stopped at Bucky's. I stopped at Bucky's once in Georgia to get dinner. And then there was another Bucky's in Lawrence, South Carolina, which was about 4 hours further than I had already driven. So I was planning to drive like 6 to 7 hours. Uh that was a that was awful. I'm sorry I did that. Um uh it was like 6 to 7 hours of driving, and this is that second stop. So this was roughly 11 p.m., give or take. Uh, and the nice thing about Bucky's is that it is not only like big gas station, the gas is usually cheaper than other places. But they also don't care if you sleep there. It's like a rest stop as well, so they don't really get mad if you sleep in the car. And so this was my plan the entire time, right? Is I was gonna get to Bucky's, I was gonna sleep until, you know, 7 in the morning, and then I was gonna do the rest of the drive and planned to get uh to Pennsylvania like after dinner, probably like 7 or 8 p.m., and still have plenty of time for chat chats. I fill up my tank, I go to the bathroom, I brush my teeth. Also, for vibes, the bathrooms out of Bucky's always very clean. Like excellent bathrooms for a trip like this. And I get my sleeping set up all laid out. I lay down the back seat and I put my sleeping pad vertically. So my pillow is like right behind the driver's seat, and then my feet are laying back into the trunk. And I have slept like this many, many times. In the field when it's raining, when I just don't want to set up my tent or anything like that, it's incredibly convenient to be able to just sleep in the back of the car. And with my sleeping bag and the sleeping mat and everything, it's pretty comfortable. I sleep pretty well in the back of Milo. I drift off at like 11:30. Around 2 a.m., I am awakened by a violent explosion. Basically, right under my head. It is so scary. Uh Nothing, the car was fine, everything was fine. Um my sleeping pad that I use for camping is probably like 10 years old at this point. And I just so happen to have it here. And as I am sleeping, it has these like baffles. You can see sort of the lines here to keep the air so everything stays flat. Um it's not supposed to do that. It's not supposed to be like that. So, what I think happened is that just however I was sleeping on it allowed the like parts in here that contain the air to like rip almost, but it had to uh it happened like all at once. This was completely flat when I went to bed, and as many of you noticed, it does sort of look like a pillow. It is right at the area, imagine, right here, as I am sleeping, that I'm flat, and then all of a sudden there's this loud rip, and my head just goes. It's very loud, scares the shit out of me. I am not in full screen. Let me show you this again. It's not supposed to look like that. This is supposed to be flat. So this happened. I gather my wits. I'm like, what happened? Um, but my heart is beating like a mile a minute. Uh, it was like an airbag. Exactly, Wild Child. I've never had that happen, but like, yeah, this just popped up while I was sleeping. It was super loud, and my head just goes. Um, so needless to say, I need to get a new sleeping pad. But being woken up like that, uh, scared me a little bit. Scared me a little bit. And I kind of looked at it and I was like, what am I gonna do? The problem with it is someone just said someone said that like looks like a pillow now. You would think that. You would think that, except now the air doesn't get down to the bottom of the pad, so it's like not comfortable anymore. So I couldn't go back to sleep. I was rudely and very violently startled awake. And so I was like, I guess I'll start driving. So I went back into the Buc-ee's. I did not shit my pants, Ophelia. Uh, but I did go into the Buc-ee's to use the bathroom before I started driving again. Got some ice for my cooler, and then started driving at like 2:30 in the morning. Uh, and I drove from like 2:30 to 7 or 2:30 to 6 maybe. I drove through the night. I drove completely through the night, and this Bucky's was a very important split in the decision tree of where I was going to go. For those of you not from the US, and for those of you that maybe just don't know your highway geography, 95, the highway that I was taking up, goes, it's the most direct route, but it also goes through like Baltimore and Washington, D.C., which are incredibly heavy traffic areas. And at the time where I would have been driving through there, it would have been like morning rush hour, but it would have been the faster way to go. The other way is you can take a left out of Florence, South Carolina, and go like around DC, but it adds another hour roughly to the trip. And so I was like, I could, if I drive straight through here from like straight through from here to home, I will make it through DC at like 11 a.m., which is about the perfect time to go through because you've missed morning rush hour and you are also missing evening rush hour. You're going through during lunch, which is still not great because it's DC and it makes you want to blow your brains out anyway. But it is like a better time to go through. But I had just worked a full shift and then driven like 7 hours, and I was running off of like 3 hours of sleep that was very rudely ended. And I thought, there's no way that I'm actually going to be able to make it through in this amount of time. And if I go to sleep again, I will end up going through DC at rush hour and I'm not going to make it in time. So at 2:30 in the morning or whatever it was when I decided to start driving again, I went to the west and I like took the extra hour to get around DC, which turns out if you're making that drive between like 2 and 5 a.m., you can make up a lot of time. It saves you. It doesn't take an extra hour because you're the only one on the road. So I cleared some pretty good ground until like 6 in the morning. I stopped in North Carolina somewhere and I slept again for another like 3 hours and then I finished the drive. I made it home at like 4 p.m. Uh, I I made incredibly good time. Uh, Having left like less than 24 hours before, and drove for 16 hours. Um, yeah, I made phenomenal time. I made it home in plenty of time. I made it home for dinner and before chats. So like it was great. I made phenomenal time going through. Which was pretty nice. So that was Wednesday night. Obviously, chat chats happens on Wednesdays. The entire plan then for Thursday was to take care of all the car stuff. Um, transferring the title, going to pick up the new one, blah blah blah, all that sort of stuff. Um, did not take as long as you would expect. The DMV and all that stuff is usually like a real pain in the ass, but it really didn't take that long for Thursday to come around to make the car swap and for us to welcome a brand new vehicle to the Eventomology family. Now you might be saying, this looks exactly like Milo. Kind of does. It is just a newer model of the same car. Uh Again, only like 7,000 miles on it. I do love me a Ford Explorer. I've had 3 of them now at this point. While not is very funny. Um I haven't named it yet. I have not named this one yet. So I'm still trying to gauge personality and things like that. Who I would name it after. Otis, Dora this time. I don't know. That's the thing. I haven't. Why Otis? Milo and Otis. Oh, okay. That would be why. It was like, is there? I was like, is there like a famous explorer named Otis? That I am not aware of. Milo and Otis is good. Mile Not is also pretty funny. Lewis Clark, That's the thing. I am trying to find a worthy explorer to name this car after. Merryweather is funny. I like that one too. Um, so we'll have to see. We'll have to see what we have to see the vibes. We gotta see the vibes here. Before we name this one. But so far, it's been great. It's been a really really nice car. The drive back was super nice. The one who likes bugs. Thank you for the follow. Welcome in. So now we have gotten the new car. Sally Ride would be an excellent car name. Ooh. Darwin Linden, hello. Welcome in. Casual. Casual. Sally's pretty good. Shadow Chance and Sassy from Homeward Bound are also options. I I kind of was thinking a woman's name this time. Sally Ride is good. I'll uh I'll run that through the admin council, which is just me. But I'll think about that. But I do like Sally Ride. I think that's very funny. Hmm. I was hoping chat would have a good name. I kind of like Sally. Anyway, um, that's really the end of the new car. Uh, the new car tales. Um, Everything else from this point on has been pretty chill. I do still have Friday and Saturday of this trip and the drive back. Scudder. Yeah, I know Scudder. He was big in Colorado with like paleoentomology stuff. Um Yeah, so this is Thursday. We got the new car. It was great. Friday was Mom Tomology took off work and we were able to hang out, which was super nice. Because I had not been home and seen any of them since Christmas 2020, like 4 going into 25. Um so it had been a while. It was really nice to see everyone. Uh but got to hang out with Mom Tomology on Friday, and she was like, "Oh, what do you want to do? We can do whatever you want." We did a couple of things, but there's this place that's like a little bit of ways from where we live, but was something that I hadn't thought about in years. But it was something that I really, really liked to do as a kid, and I was like, "Hey, why don't we go do that?" And she goes, "Are you for real? Like, we haven't been there in probably 20 years." And I said, "I know. That's the point. That's why I want to go." So after we got lunch at one of our favorite places, we went to the Lil Lehigh Trout Nursery. Uh, Partial mom tomology leak here in the corner. Um, this is a place a bit of ways from where we live, where they raise trout to like stock the rivers in the state. So it's a nice little park, and you can walk around and see the fishes. They have a bunch of these big tanks that are just like full of fish. And when I was growing up, we would always call this the fish hatchery. But according to one of their signs, a fish hatchery very specifically is like hatching the fish from egg, whereas the trout nursery is after they reach a certain size and then they keep them in these tanks to build up and make them bigger before they get released. So they have all of these tanks of fish. There's a bunch of like different sort of size classes here. Fish preschool bulking season. Yes, yes, yes. They have all these tanks. There's netting over top of them because there are a bunch of like blue herons and stuff in the area that were coming to eat the fish. Um, but it was more flushed out than what I remembered it being as a kid. I think they've added new signage, they've added new paths and things like that. But it was also still like very nostalgic of like, yeah, this is basically exactly how I remember it as a kid. So they have all of these different ponds with all the different sizes of fish in them. And they have like a couple of different species of trout. They've got the golden trout, like the leucistic ones that sort of turn that gold color rather than just like normal trout color. Um, and you can see just like how many fish there are in these tanks. We got recruited into clipping fins on salmon to keep track of whether they're hatcher or wild. Oh, that's neat. Mostly for fishing starberry. They're a big game fish. The Pennsylvania state fish is the brook trout. Um, so to keep pressures off of like wild populations and prevent overfishing, they stock a lot of waterways with these like farmed. Um, but the cool thing about this, and I think my favorite part, and definitely uh the pinnacle of this experience as a kid, but also frankly as a 30-year-old man, uh you can feed the fish. You can feed the fish, and it's so fun. Um Back here in this building, there's like a little shed right over here that has a vending machine that it only takes coins, and for as little as 25 cents it dispenses like a bag of fish food. um you can get the small bag for a quarter, you can get the bigger bags for $1, whatever. You get the little pellets and you can feed the fish. So this is a slow motion video. Hired mom tomology to throw the pellets in for us, but I'm taking the video through this like little hole in the net. And so you can see like right here, the pellets are starting to fall down. The pellets are starting to fall, and chaos ensues. They go crazy style over these fish pellets. And here is, so that was the slow motion video. This is the full speed version. So this is like actual as it happens. So they go crazy. They go crazy over these little pellets. And so again, as a kid, you have a bag of food and you have these massive tanks of fish, and you can just throw as much food into the fish as you want. You can, you can get a whole bag and just dump it all at once. Or my favorite game as a kid was to take a singular pellet and toss it into the middle of the pool. So then there's all these fish that go in for like one pellet at a time. Um, and honestly, holds up. It holds up very well. It was still entertaining as like a full ass adult. This was still quite a fun uh part of the trip was getting to feed these fish. Fish freak you out more than bugs. Interesting. I can see, I think there's a lot of similarity there between like fish being kind of alien, like fish in general being like, oh, they live underwater, I don't really understand how that works. And bugs very similarly have like that kind of mystery factor to them of like, I don't really understand how this goes. Um but yeah, interesting. Small like a goldfish. Huh. Anyway, so this this was one of the selected activities that we did. Um there was a catbird. This is a gray catbird. That was just kind of there, but it was maybe like 3 feet away from me. So pretty good picture of this thing with just my phone. Um, and then I have had a waterproof case on my phone since probably like 2014. Ever since I started working at the water park and we would have our phones on us as supervisors, I've had a waterproof case. Entomology knows this. Surely she knows this. But modern phones can handle a little bit of water as a treat sometimes. And so after we took the video, I grab my phone, I turn it upside down, and I just go, huh? He's like, what are you doing? Blah, 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 blah. I'm taking pictures like this, Mom. Cinema. The underwater fish picture. I think this is so funny, particularly this guy. But any of their faces just like really funny here. This guy, huh? So I got the underwater fish picture here, which I thought was very funny. Um, but yeah, so I got a couple of oh, they look horrified. Yeah, well, somebody's reaching their hand in there, you know. Uh, so this was the end of Friday's hangout with Mom Tomology. Um, I did bring a bunch of stuff from home. Uh, I haven't been home with a car since I actually picked up Milo, like back in 2017. Um, and so there are certain things that I've like, oh, this would be nice to have, or just like kind of a random thing that I would want, but I don't have the bandwidth to like bring on a flight with me. Um, and now living in Florida where there's a lot more water and accessibility to it and stuff like that, I grabbed um some more like outdoorsy stuff. Like I grabbed a second sleeping bag. I grabbed fishing rods and a bunch of like line and tackle and all that sort of stuff. Because that was something my grandfather and I did a lot as a kid. And growing up, we did a lot of fishing and stuff like that. But I've been living in Arizona where there's like no water anywhere for a very long time. So I picked up a bunch of stuff like that. Um, there is a new background prop. Give me 1 second. There. This is just gonna be in the back of stream now. We got a sword, and again, this is just like not something that I need. Uh, Certainly not something that I'm gonna try to get through PSA with. But I was like, you know, I got room for it in the car. This is a real sword. It's like actually sharp and whatnot. Um, my dad bought this for a Halloween costume like years and years ago. Uh, and Dad, he's not using it anymore. So, again, it's not really anything that I needed, but it's cool. Roach, I'm a sword guy now, Roach. Perfect time to come back to stream. Home defense like the founding fathers, yeah. This and my musket. But yeah, so stuff like this, fishing rods and extra camping equipment and other sort of like outdoorsy stuff. Next bug dissection. Just so anyway, That's here. It's probably going to live right back there where it was for most of stream today. I'm just going to have it sitting back there. So I'm a sword guy now. I got a sword. Um, but anyway, I picked up a ton of that stuff. Uh, just random things that I wouldn't really otherwise have. I didn't really have the means to bring back when I wasn't driving. So picked up a ton of stuff. I had to completely redo downstairs in my like gear corner. I have like all these fishing rods and stuff now, so it's a whole thing. But that was Friday, and the wedding that I had to go to was on Saturday. It was a bug friend of mine and his vet wife that were getting married. Super super nice. They're phenomenal couple. They're both great. Very excited that I was invited to their wedding. But it was like almost 2 hours south of my house. And south is, in fact, the direction of Florida. So rather than sleeping at home, driving to the wedding, driving back to my house in Pennsylvania, and then doing the whole drive back to Florida, I was like, hey, I know this is like not ideal because it cuts down on the time that I'll be able to be home and everything like that. But I think I'm just going to leave from the wedding to start driving back. And I was like, yeah, I'll make it. I'll make it back. That makes sense. Um, my plan was to find like the closest rest stop after going to this wedding and uh sleeping there and then doing just like a big drive on Sunday so I would be back in time for work on Monday. I did not make it to work on Monday. I could have. I was home in time for it, but I had already planned to take Monday off and I just needed like a break day. So, let's talk about the wedding. Like I said, it was a bug friend of mine and his vet wife. So, the logical wedding venue for them was a zoo. It was great. The wedding invitation basically, uh, we were allowed in the zoo as the zoo was closing. So we had to have our invites and whatever to get in. I don't know who would try to scam it and like dress up to go to the zoo after hours, but it was great. It was super cool. They had a lot of the animals obviously go in for the night, but all the ones that were, would barn themselves like the big hoof sock and things like that were just out and we could just go look at them throughout the wedding and things like that. So, here's me and some zebras at this wedding, which was very fun. Um, and they had uh animal ambassadors all throughout the wedding as well. So they had um they had a red tail hawk out pre ceremony that people could go and like interact with and do all that sort of stuff. After the ceremony, but before the reception, there was a porcupine, and then after dinner, during the reception and everything, there was a skink. So it was really fun. Like I said, it was very much them, yeah, as a wedding. So this was all before the wedding. This was like right as I was getting to the zoo for everything to start up. They also had this really cool Lego sloth that I really liked a lot. This was during the cocktail hour. So after the ceremony happened and everything like that, they had all of their appetizers and they had their bar and everything set up on the Jaguar Trail. So this Jaguar had this massive like inside space and outside that it was just in. It was just in and kind of, doing its thing. We saw it go up on the little climby thing. We saw it going uh inside at one point throughout the night, but I was just sitting there eating my little, bacon wrapped scallop on a toothpick and drinking the unlimited wedding juice. Uh and there's a jaguar. It's great. It's super fun. Wedding in a zoo, 10 out of 10 recommend it. Very cool. Um on the way over to the reception hall, they had this bald eagle exhibit that during the ceremony, the bald eagles were going nuts. They were just like like making their bald eagle noises in the background during the ceremony, which I thought was really funny. Um I have been to 3 outdoor weddings now, and I have kept eBird lists throughout all of them. This one was very interesting because it was at a zoo and I had to like discern. I was like, okay, yeah, that's a bald eagle. That's not a wild bald eagle, so I can't count that on the list. But I saw 13 species during my friend's ceremony, saw or heard 13 species during the ceremony, which I thought was great. But these bald eagles were going nuts, which I also thought was fun. Bald eagle noises are not what you expect them to be. It's like a very non-regal call for such a prominent bird, which is why the red tail hawk call is always substituted in for them in movies and videos and things like this. Alveus fans would enjoy to know that the zoo we went to is AZA accredited. Yes. I don't think my friends would have had the wedding there if it was not AZA. So that makes a lot of sense. So during the wedding, you just hear this like squeaky, squeaky, squeaky in the background, which I thought was really funny. Um, and then this was just kind of the realization um, that we were just in a zoo after hours. This was after the ceremony was over, and after the reception was over. The groom was like, "Hey, I have a present for you," and I'm like, "Steve, this is your wedding." What do you mean you have a present for me? And he's like, oh, I was getting it to you like this was a congratulations. This was a congratulations for defending, which is incredibly nice. It was the first time that I had gotten to see him since. Whoa, Volcano Doc, thank you for the raid. Welcome in, everyone. Welcome in, welcome in. Unstable Deus, Nigabul, Alzorki, thank you for the follows. Welcome in, everyone. We are currently recapping a wedding that I went to just a few weeks ago, or last week, actually. Um, and the resulting trip of having gotten a new car. One biology here support another. Hell yeah. Thank you guys. Welcome in. Um, My name is Evan. For those of you who have not been here before, this is typically an entomology stream. I've been an entomologist for like 10 years now. Trader Tots, thank you for the follow. Um, I work on ground beetles specifically, and typically these streams, Aces Wolfie, thank you, thank you. Um, Typically this is a very entomology oriented stream. We do still have termite time coming up here in just a second. Uh, I have a couple more pictures to go through from this trip, uh, and then we'll get to some termite time. Um, but yeah, you're definitely more than welcome to ask any bug questions you might have. Goldfish, Pate B, thank you for the follows. Are there non-ground beetles? Sure are, Disaster Cat. Ground beetles are a family. So there are other beetles that are on the ground, but not all beetles on the ground are ground beetles. So ground beetles are actually the third largest beetle family worldwide, with about 40,000 species. And we have about 2,500 species here in the US. Um, I have This is a selection of them from French Guiana that we were looking at last week, give or take. Eat supper, have fun. Thanks, Volcano. Enjoy your supper. Scarabs are beetles on the ground that aren't ground beetles. Correct, Dr. Hubs. Very good. Very good. Yeah, so as I said, typically an entomology stream. Uh, we're a little bit a ways from that at the moment. Um, because I'm doing some storytelling and catch up since I haven't streamed in like 2 weeks. But if you would like to enjoy the rest of this wedding story, I do also have ants here on the bottom right hand side of the screen. That is my Florida carpenter ant colony that we call Calypso. So for you bug enjoyers, there is that. While we wrap up the story, and then we do have a microscope attached to the stream, so uh, this is live view. We can change and look at stuff with this. I have a couple of different termites that I was planning to look at after we finish the story in just a bit here. What are my opinions on Ant-Man? Um, the movies were okay. The entomology specifics of the movie were actually pretty good. They did have an entomology consult on that movie, and so the anatomy of the different species that they had there were good, and the behaviors that they exhibited in that movie were pretty good. For instance, one of the things that he had were fire ants, which are known for this. They're known for this rafting behavior, where if the colony floods, they will all sort of grab together and form this like amorphous blob of ants, but they use it to then float until they hit substrate to be able to, you know, regain the colony after they've flooded. So those rafts will float and hold larvae and hold the adults and hold the queen and everything like that. And without too many spoilers for the Ant-Man movie, there is a section where they use that in the movie. So yeah, Ant-Man superhero video, it was okay. I'm more of an OG original Spider-Man series man myself, but Ant-Man, perfectly fine movie. I would actually I would actually have that in rotations during my entomology class whenever we would do movie nights. Um, because the ant things in it uh were actually quite accurate. We have movie console, didn't actually have to do that as a career, just had to know a lot about stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Uh so as we were saying, um this is a zoo up in Pennsylvania at night. two of my friends had their wedding here, and we were able to see the animals during and around the wedding. This was before the ceremony. They had the jaguar was out during cocktail hour. They had the bald eagles going around. Um, and then yeah, so this was after the ceremony during the like dancing part of this. My friend who was getting married, so the groom was like, "Hey, I have a present for you." And I said, "Steve, this is your wedding. What do you mean that you have a present for me?" Um, and it was a belated dissertation defense gift from him, which was super super nice. Um, for his defense, a year for 3 years ago now, um, I got him like an original 1904 copy of the Insect Catalog of New Jersey, which was a resource that we used a lot when we were working on his dissertation. I helped him a lot with his identifications for his dissertation. Um, and so we used that resource a lot. And we had a PDF of it. And he's like, "Oh God, these are always so expensive." Blah blah blah. And I was like, "Well, I got you for your defense." So I got him that copy of that, which was super cool. Any animals featured during the ceremony? No, Greg, nothing during the ceremony. But they did have like meet and greet ambassadors uh during other times. So after the ceremony, but before the reception and before dinner, there was like a porcupine out that you could go meet. They also did a red tail hawk and a skink. So there were some animals, but there was like they didn't have the giraffe bring the rings down. If that's what you were asking, they were not featured that prominently in the ceremony. Um, and then this is me leaving said zoo with my present. Uh, he got me booze, got me drunk. um, there is a whiskey distillery in the Pine Barrens in New Jersey where he did his work, and that we had been to several times during his dissertation. He got me some limited edition, like limited run, small batch whiskeys, uh, which was super super nice of him. I have not given them a try yet, but this is me leaving the zoo with a box of liquor that I did not come in the zoo with. Um, and like I said, my plan with this was to get to like the next rest stop, sleep there for a bit, and then go. But again, the problem was driving through DC. I felt pretty good after the wedding. I had the groom's signature drink at the very beginning, right after the ceremony, and that was the only drink that I had throughout the whole night. Because I knew I wanted to maybe do a little bit of driving after I was done. And so I hopped in, I changed out of this getup, put on some Crocs, put on some shorts, and was like, we're just gonna go. One thing turned into another. I get to Virginia, and there is a rest stop. And I paused there for a bit. No, because I actually did stay. Uh, I kept going, I kept going, I kept going, and I was like, I'm getting awfully close to DC. And at this point, it's 12, 1 in the morning. Um, and I stop, I look at the maps, and I'm like, okay, if I drive for another hour, I get through DC, and there's a rest stop there that I can stay at. So that was my plan. I got through DC at like 1:45, 2 in the morning, get to just on the other side of it, pull in this rest stop, and I'm like, all right, great. This is where I'm sleeping for the night. mind you, my sleeping pad still not fixed. So I tried that for a little bit. Did not work, so I ended up just reclining the front seat and sleeping in the driver's seat. But during that rest stop, of course, there had to be a bug break, right? Boom. Male Corydalis cornutus, the eastern Dobson fly. Now, this is a sick find. This is a phenomenal bug. I love this bug. Um, it is featured on one of my prized possessions, my little collection supplies box that my friend made me. That has all these different carved bugs on it. And she had the Dobson fly on there because this is one of my sort of like side favorite groups. Um, and you know, it's always impressive to see something like this. Uh, the the males have these like ridiculously long pinchers, but they have no muscle strength behind them. They use these to like fight with other males, but the females have really short and like really sharp mandibles that because they're short and sharp, they are able to bite a lot harder. So the males look uh frankly a little bit scary to most people because they have these big tusks going on here, but completely harmless. Uh the females on the other hand, I have had them draw blood before. So males not really a problem. Are they actually flies or just in the name? Just in the name. So this is a cousin group to like ant lions and lacewings, but they're in their own separate order called Megaloptera. Heard of such a bug? Well, here you are. This species is really widely found across the U.S. The eastern half, at least, um, there is a western species that's Corydalus texanus, and then there's a like a South Texas species and things like that. But in this group, the males always have these kind of big jaws. There are fake flies, sort of. Um, Fly comes up a lot in insect names, as you would expect, because they can fly. But a fly, in the strict sense, is the order Diptera, which means that it only has one pair of wings. Um, and those are going to be things like your fruit flies, your house flies, horse flies, mosquitoes, things like that. There are lots of other bugs that have fly in the name, like dragonfly, Dobson fly, butterfly, firefly, all these sorts of things that um, are in different non-true fly groups. So this is a Dobson fly. It is not a true fly, but it does still have fly in the similar to scarabs. I can see that red bean bitter cream. I can see that, especially with like this ornamentation up here. It's very similar to like the big horns on scarabs and things like that hole. Yes, exactly. So I stopped at this rest stop and it's 2:30. I was just at a wedding dancing like crazy. I had to drive real far. I drove like 4.5 hours after this wedding to get down there. And I still had to take the bug break. I walked around the entire building, checking all of the lights, like all the lights that are shining up onto the building to keep it illuminated and whatnot, for bugs. I'm looking for beetles, I'm looking for all kinds of stuff. I found this guy, but unfortunately, no beetles. There were no beetles at this rest stop at all, which was insane. Um, I slept there. I checked the next morning and there were still no beetles, and I was like, well, Well, that was disappointing. I guess we'll just keep driving. So I drove. I slept from like 2:30 to like 6, and then I basically just drove straight through from there. Um, this is I think Georgia, maybe North Florida. I don't know. I think this is Georgia still. But going into a pretty heavy rainstorm, and this was my first chance to try the windshield wipers on my new car. Red Bean, I wanted to find bugs at my rest stop. I would like to find bugs anywhere at any time. Um, yes, I was hoping to find something. Not it wasn't the type of rest stop where it wasn't like a hotel. This is just a place where you're like able to park and stay in your car. That also has like inside restaurants and bathrooms and information and stuff like that. So it wasn't like I'm at a hotel and I'm finding bed bugs and things like that. These were all on the outside of the building. Um, and I was just looking for cool stuff. And we found the Dobson fly. So I think it worked out. Rolling over in bed and seeing carpet beetles on your pillow. There are worse things. There are far worse things, Disaster Cat. Truthfully, would not bother me very much. The panic of seeing carpet beetles on my bed would set in when I have to go through and check all of the insect drawers for damage. Because carpet beetles are a like museum pest. And a big part of entomology is actually looking at specimens. So, like I showed earlier, I have this this box out that we've been working on of ground beetles from where are these from? French Guiana. But I also have all of this over here. There's like 65 drawers of insects and probably close to like 10,000 specimens over there. So the worry with carpet beetles in the house is like they can sleep with me all day if they would like. Um, I can't want them in this room. So that would be the panic with carpet beetles uh would be um would be the collection. That would be a huge problem. Gundalfine, thank you for the follow. Welcome in. New office wall. Yeah, I did a little bit of sprucing up and cleaning in here. So you obviously have the back wall here with the spider over on the side with the spider poster and the Christmas lights. On my right, we have all of the cabinetry and all the bug specimens. And then on the left hand wall, there's a closet. But I also hung up some other stuff. So, like, the Alveus postcard and the print and some other art things that a friend of mine did, Donkus. If she's here, happy birthday. Um, so yeah, I've hung up a few things in the office, so we're getting some new lore here. Can you see carpet beetles from the naked eye? Yeah, yeah. Carpet beetles they're small. They're pretty small. Like 3-4 millimeters a lot of the time. But you can definitely see that. Yeah. And then this I think is the last of our photos. This is after uh this is after the rainstorm. This is now sunset. I've been driving for probably like 9 hours at this point. This was in Florida, so I was like very close to home. Um, Making it back. The trip was almost over, but the rain had cooled everything down so nicely. I was driving with the windows open. I had my music turned up a little bit, and as I was driving through, I turned the music off. I have the picture. Sorry, forgot to switch it out. This was the last picture that I was showing off here. Very nice, soft sunset after the rain. Still some little rain clouds here, but cooled everything off. Um, and as it got a little bit darker and darker, just this immense, so loud, so many species mixed together. The frogs. The frogs were going crazy. And so I took it slow. I was on a road, not a ton of people on it, so I was going a little bit under the speed limit. I turned my music down. I had my arm out the window. I was doing the thing where you like ride your hand on the airwave. Um and it was just really nice. It was very special in like the the full circle way. So for those of you that are still here from the raid, I spent the first part of this stream talking about all my adventures that I had in my old car. John, welcome back. Thank you for the 7 months. Uh, so through like other stuff that I did in this other car, and sort of like how it really shaped the last couple years of my life and the experiences and whatnot that I had with that. Um, Having this one and this being sort of like the first very calming nature moment, things like that I had in this new car, I was like, damn, this is this is gonna be good. This is gonna be like a new good car to bring me through this. I'm very excited to get it dirty, take it out in the field, see some stuff, experience more of this. So the frog calls with the cotton candy skies, and everything like that. This was just a very, very nice way to kind of end this road trip. I got home at like 8 or 9 p.m. And I was like, oh yeah, surely I'll go to work in the morning. I got up with my alarm and I was like, because I had to unpack all the stuff from my car. I had to do laundry. I had, all this stuff. There was a Bucky's job. There was a Bucky's. So yeah, over the course of 5 days, I did roughly 35 hours of driving. I got a new car. I fed some fish. I went to a wedding. It was tiring. It was a long trip, but it was a really good trip. I really did enjoy it. It was great to see my family again. Um, but I just needed that day. I needed Monday to recover from to recover from what had just happened to me. So I took the day. Went to work Tuesday, and it was great. So we're back. We're in this. We're here again. Um, so yeah, that was the farewell to Milo, who was my old car, and I think, taking a chat suggestion, we might go with Sally Ride for the new car. Um, but from here, I do have a couple of other things to uh check out, since this is a bug stream after all, and we've been looking at the ants while I've been yapping. Um, but I do have some termite specimens, some interesting looking termites here, that I was going to wrap up the night with. Cindy the Civic. So again, for the Raiders, thank you all for being here. Very, very kind. Um, what you're looking at right now is Calypso. She is my Florida carpenter ant colony. So everything that you're seeing, like, yeah, so everything that you're seeing right here under the forceps tip is brood. So these are like eggs and larvae and things like that. Fricative moth, thank you for the follow. All of these ants over here are like the workers. And then Calypso herself, the queen of the colony, is right there. So, I caught her during a nuptial flight, which is where ant colonies will send out winged ants to reproduce. I caught her almost a year ago now. Her birthday or her adoption day will be coming up here pretty soon. Um, and so this whole colony just started with her. All of these other workers that are happening around her right now are her babies and are her offspring, and so they help her uh now do things for the colony like forage for food, raise the other larvae and things like that. So Calypso, the big ant there in the middle, is the queen who started this all, and all of these other ants that you see throughout the colony here uh are her offspring. They don't like that they're being moved. So they're freaking out a little bit. But yeah, so this pile right here that these ones are tending to are the future ants. So the larvae and the pupae and things like that, and the eggs are in this pile right here. Was she already carrying eggs or something when you caught her? Yes. So just like people, they're born with all the eggs that they have, but after they fly, they will mate, uh, and then drop their wings. There's an ad coming in about a minute, so I'll probably hold off on finishing this explanation until that's over. Uh, unless you guys are able to sub now, but no pressure on that. So yes, they have all of their eggs. They mate. They will drop their wings, and then they're basically fully self sufficient. They can store sperm from their initial mating. This is the only time that they will mate in their life. They can store sperm and keep it alive for upwards of like 20 years. Uh, all of their mating is done during that nuptial flight, and then as soon as she starts laying eggs, she will never mate again. How large Queen C is. The ads should be happening soon. If not, they're happening like right now, maybe. Where did I had a ruler earlier. I literally looked at it earlier on. Um, I have no idea where I put it. I would say probably like 3/4 of an inch. Wild child, I would say. Ends in 3. And we're back. Um, Wild child, I wasn't sure if you heard that. About 3/4 of an inch for Calypso. Um, and yeah, John, ant queens have been reported in certain species, not necessarily this one, but certain ants have had queens that have been recorded living over 25 or 30 years. And there are some termites that have been upwards of 40. So they can live a very long time, in their entire mating, all of the mating that they do in their life is during that nuptial flight. For ants, at least. Termites will continue to mate because there's a king and a queen. Um, but yeah, queen ants hold the sperm for decades, and just keep using it to add more to the colony. Sunita, SSJ, thank you for the follow. The whole colony are full siblings. Yes, but also sort of more than that, actually. Uh, Wild Child, we'll get to you in a second if that's all right. Um, so Disaster Cat. You know, if you have siblings, right, you share 50% of your DNA with them because they have half of a copy from mom and half of a copy from dad, right? So you share 50% of your relatedness to your siblings. And then it's like 12.5% to your cousins and whatever. It goes down the further out you get. Ants have this really crazy mating system called haplodiploidy, where male ants are made and created from unfertilized eggs. So a female ant can lay an unfertilized egg and it will always come out male. And because of that, he only has one genetic copy. He only has like one DNA set. Whereas female ants, which is most of the colony, uh, are diploid, which means that they have two sets of DNA coming in. But the way that the math works out on that is that they are inheriting 50% of the DNA from mom and 100% of the DNA from dad. If you average that out, they are 75% related to one another. So they are more related to one another than you are to your siblings. And that social structure and that high degree of relatedness um is sort of what drives the whole ant colony thing. If you think about it, like, you, in an evolutionary sense, I'm not going to get into your family politics, but like, if you have a good relationship with your brother, you're going to more than likely be uh more ready to save them from a fire than you are to save your cousin. And maybe that's just because of personalities and things like that. But on an evolutionary level, you share more of your DNA with your sibling than you do with your cousins. And so, even if it's something that might personally hurt you, keeping your family genetics going is like a really big thing in evolutionary biology. And so, with ants, they have uh 75% relatedness, which is another 50% more than we have as humans, which is a hypothesis that we use to explain like why an individual ant would like sacrifice itself to fight some much larger creature for like the good of the colony. It's because if they can protect the queen and they can protect all of their siblings, their DNA is still getting passed on. And that is like evolutionarily the best thing that can happen. So we think that the basis for like creating all of this complex material and these complex interactions with ants are driven because they have really, really high relatedness to one another, which is ridiculously cool. Um, so they're more than full siblings. Disaster Cat. They're more related to each other than you are to your sibling. Um, but they're all exactly the same relatedness to one another as they are to everyone else. How do they choose the mate? Is the mate called the king or just a worker ant or what? Male ants are called drones, and their only role is to mate with the queen and then they die. It's really like their only thing. They mate and then they die. So any ant that you see like doing things in the colony, taking care of babies, foraging, feeding the queen, cleaning up, that sort of stuff, that's all done by female workers. The only time males are involved at all are during these reproductive cycles. Uh, Wild child. What happens if one of them dies in there? Uh, they get rid of them. They do have like Undertaker ants in some ways. Um, Male is the copy of the mom. Yes, yes. As an unfertilized female egg turns into a. So when they die, they will start to give off this odor of, hey, I'm a dead body. And so to keep everything nice and neat and tidy in the colony, as soon as they smell that chemical, they will take that ant and move it out of the colony. They will have trash piles, which is like the only maintenance that I really have to do on them is like every couple of weeks I pick up the trash pile. And that's going to be like old pieces of food, the little cocoon wrapper on the pupae as they're evolving is not the right word, metamorphosizing, um, dirt, debris, all that sort of stuff. And the dead ants will also go out there as well. So as soon as they die, they will carry them outside to a specific burial area. And we talked about this on Chat Chats the other week. For those of you new from the raid and you aren't sure what Chat Chats are, we do Wednesday streams on Alveus Sanctuary's channel where we answer bug questions. And I think it was either this week or last week. Somebody asked about dead ants as well. And scientists found that if you put the chemical on living ants, but it was the smell profile of the dead ant, the other workers would go, that's it, you must be dead, and carry the ant out of the colony, even if it was like actively struggling, like it was alive, but it smelled like a dead ant, they would still take it out of the colony. So that's what they do. That is what they do when they die. Does she raise the first few herself, or does she keep popping them out until the boss daughter emerges? Yes, she does raise the first few herself. So, obviously she's quite large. Calypso is a big girl. Um, she retains a lot of protein and resources from her upbringing, and she will then be able to store that and use that to feed the first few workers. Yes, casual. They are called Nenictics. The first workers in this colony are often going to be smaller than your normal average worker. And so she will raise the first, maybe 5 to 10 of them. And then from there, those 5 to 10 will then take over nurse duties, taking care of the babies. And so the cycle goes from there. After she has had and raised her first couple, they then do all of the work for her. Uh, Male is a copy of the mom. Yes. What is feeding them like? Are they almost self-sufficient? So they have 2 test tubes in here that have water and one that has sugar water. So they will be able to forage and grab that stuff as they need. And then about once a week, maybe every 10 days, I will put in some sort of protein source. With all my other stuff, like the tarantulas and stuff that we have downstairs, I often have extra crickets that I can put in. Um, so they will then feed on and dismember the crickets, get all the protein stuff out of it. So I basically I feed them like once every week and a half. Changing the water and the sugar water is definitely the more taxing responsibility there. It's not a lot. They're very easy to care for. Um, but right now she's got maybe like 50 or 60 workers. These colonies can get to be like tens of thousands. And so as they continue to grow, the maintenance kind of does keep going. Are you talking nicely about you? Yes, I did, Donkus. I hung up some of your stuff. I I put them. Well, I put up your postcards and your little thank you notes are there too because those were super cute. Um, and yes, happy birthday! Another year, gonna be great. So yeah, that's what feeding them's like. So it's pretty easy. Does she keep using the same sperm from years ago? Yes. Wild child, yes. Yes, they do. She has a specialized structure inside of her abdomen called the spermatheca, which is able to uh, essentially feed and keep the sperm alive. Like it, I don't know how it works. That's a bit beyond my like actual understanding of how it goes. Um, but yes, she does keep and maintain the sperm for like 20 years, which is crazy. Disaster. That's a crazy sentence, but you're gonna fit right in here in this chat. Sperm is nuts. Sperm there. You can see that. But you can see sort of part of the different casts in the colony right now. If we zoom in a little bit more, uh, that little cluster right there are all eggs. Do they replicate in her body? Or do they just have hella shelf life? It is all shelf life stall. It's all shelf life. So this cluster here is eggs, and then they have some of the larger, more mature, like larvae, right up in here, right in this area, give or take. That's a larva down there, and then the pupae, the cocoon stage, if you will, of the ants, is made up of this like little fibrous. They make silk, so just sort of like a butterfly. They like have a gland that they can make threads out of. We did watch one hatch a couple of months ago. That was very exciting. But this is a lot of what their garbage pile is. So this is what I took out of the ant garbage this week. This is not only pieces of cotton ball, but this is also like their pupil casings and stuff in here too. You can see all these different little pieces and bits and bobs. Some of this is like old cricket exoskeleton, things like that. It's not silk in the same way, Stall, but they do use it to make wrap their thing. Uh, pet sperm thing common to all ants or just this species? It's all ants as far as I know. It is all ants as far as I know. Trash haul. Yeah. So they're also able to be out and about through the colony. Um, Here's their like actual entrance tunnel. That was perfect timing. Cinema on that. So they have like open air above what we're seeing right now, and then they have this subterranean piece that's under this red piece of glass. So this is their little entrance tunnel that they can use to get the in and out of their like underground section. And the reason that it has that red tint to it, for those of you that haven't been here before, insects have a very hard time seeing red. And so to them, they think they're underground right now. They think they're covered. They don't think we can see them from the top because they can't see light or they can't see red, so they think that it's completely dark. But with the red film, we're able to see them with the red tint, of course. But they aren't bothered by the light because typically these ants are going to be living like inside of logs and stuff like that. So they prefer to be in the dark. Um, and this little red film here makes them think that they are, while we still have the ability to, check on them and see what's happening. giant bathrooms. That's why Big Mama is so big. Gotta have room for sperm storage. Sort of. Yeah. Pet sperm from other species. Yeah, Starberry. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they do interbreed, which is nuts. Um, but yeah, this is Calypso, and she was our supposed to be our background stream for tonight. 3.5 hours. I hate to do this, but I don't think we're gonna have termite time tonight. We got a meeting early in the morning. Um, I've got a meeting in the morning, so I need to go to bed at least at like somewhat a reasonable hour. Um, I barely think. Take note. Yeah. I have seen that one. Great. Well, I'm glad you guys enjoyed it still. Like I said, for those of you new viewers and raiders who came in, appreciate it as always. And thank you, Volcano, for the raid. Thank you for the follow, Disaster Cat. Um, we do a lot of different stuff on this channel. Like I said, we have the microscope hooked up here for various aspects of stream. There is the Discord as well, so there's a lot of like-minded entomology folks in there. If you have any identification questions or cool bug topics, I'll probably post some links about this messer species that Starberry was talking about in there for your information. We have bug merch uh, sharing. We've got bug music sharing, all kinds of good stuff in there. So check that out if you're interested in the insects at all. And I hope you are, because you have stuck around for a little bit. Yeah, next time we will start with termites. I promise. I am also hopefully back to like my more or less normal stream schedule now of like Mondays and maybe some other secret day. But at least Monday evenings. Um, and yeah, next time we'll look at some really cool, interesting termite specimens. But I think I am going to send you guys to more cool animal stuff. Purple Martin Conservation is a friend of the channel and has live cams on purple martin nests right now, and they're trying to keep their average 75 viewers so they can get affiliate or a partner, excuse me, for partner. And so the nest cams are great. All the staff over there are really knowledgeable, and a lot of the chatters as well know a lot about the individual birds. So we'll go from ant nest cam over into purple martin nest cam. But thank you all again for hanging out. It has been a blast as always. Thank you, Volcano, for the raid, and thanks for those of you that stuck around and for all the new follows. We are going to hit that raid, and I am going to head to bed. But thanks all for hanging out. I will see you next time, and check out the Discord if you're interested. Bye, everyone. Have a nice night. Go now. Raid now.